All right. I think it's perfectly obvious why we would be rocking the Packers hoodie today with Green Bay playing on Monday Night Football this week and with a big win in primetime last week. Felt the need, had to pull out the Packers threads for this Week 16 episode where your boy did real well last week. We're looking to carry a good amount of momentum here into Week 16, like the real championship rounds of the NFL season. And by real good, I mean I had the best combined straight up and against the spread record that I've had all season long, which is pretty awesome. To be this deep in a season and be able to throw up a season best, that feels pretty damn good. And we're just looking to hold on to that and build on it going into Week 16. The first week of the absolute rest of the fantasy football playoffs. If you're in a fantasy football league and the playoffs don't start at least this week or haven't already started, ask your commish what they're doing. Like, what's going on? Anyway, like I said, Week 15, super successful. Week 16, we're looking to build off that momentum. And I felt really good, actually, about most of the picks this week, as we will talk about as the show progresses. But I felt really good about the vast majority of what we are about to talk about today. All right. And yeah, we're starting an hour earlier again. Once again, I've got an early work day tomorrow, so it's working to my benefit to get us started a little early. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Week 16 show. In 5, 4, 3. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to Week 16 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2024 NFL season and postseason. I've got my handy telephone here in case what happens to us last week happens this week, and we happen to get a phone call while I'm live. It's right there. We could shut that down quickly. So, as I talked about in the pre-show, this past week, Week 15, I'm going to mark this one down as essentially my most successful week of this season, especially, again, combining just straight up and against the spread, 22 correct picks between straight up and against the spread in a 16-game week. It ties my best mark of the season, 12-4 straight up, 10-6 against the spread, and was only one game underwater on the totals. I was 7-8-1, so I had to push in there about as close as it can get on the totals to, getting to over 500, which is always the dream. But 140-84 straight up, 128-91-5 against the spread, continuing my really, really solid against the spread season. And on the totals, I'm 7 games under 500. But again, 5 pushes are in there as well. So a couple of those fall a particular way. Who knows what we might be looking at. But y'all know it's been a solid season, and we're looking to finish super, super strong. In the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em pool, I am in 20th place out of 34, 1,269 out of 1,794 possible confidence points, which does mark for, I believe, my first time this season, I'm above the 70% plateau, 70.7% of confidence points. And once again, in years past, that's a championship pace. This year is just the single most competitive season of this pool that we have ever had. I brought in 120 of 136 possible confidence points last week, which is just over 88% on the whole week for going 12-4, but it was not good enough to win Week 15. Shout out to him. I wish he was here. Our boy, Hatbox Kid. The Hatbox Kid brings in 132 of 136 possible confidence points, 97.1% on the week, and it was good enough for Hatbox Chris to win Week 15 in the Pick'em pool. Tyler's picks obviously remains the overall leader, 1,391 out of 1,794 possible confidence points. It's 77.5%. It's absolutely unheard of. Tyler continues to rocket through the 2024 season, and unless something happens, he might have this thing wrapped up. He is just on an absolute tear. Going to take a peek now into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, brought to you by my good friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And if you check the description to this live stream or the VOD, you're going to find my affiliate link to the Dynasty Trade Calculator, which is one of the absolute best resources available to you online for Dynasty, Keeper, and long-term fantasy football. It does not matter how your league is configured, how many teams are in it, what your interesting scoring things are. Are you a super flex? Are you a 2 QB? Do you have a tight end premium? Running back points per carry? It does not matter. The Dynasty Trade Calculator will gear and curate specific rankings and trade evaluations to your league's setup. The DTC is an incredible tool. I've been using it for years. A bunch of great experts on there, a number of great podcasts. And again, for as little as a cup of coffee, you can get access to this incredible tool that has helped me win Dynasty championships. And I'm going for another one this year. So the DTC is definitely for you. Check my affiliate link down below. I went 5-3 across my 8 fantasy football teams last week, a 72-48 mark overall across all of my fantasy football teams. Best ball remained unchanged, 1-8-10 for my 3 best ball teams. And when I started the season, I think I might have even said it in my week 1 episode. I was doing 8 fantasy football teams. My goal across those 8 teams was to make the playoffs in all 8 of those leagues. How many leagues did I make the playoffs in? All 8 of them. 8 for 8. Clinched 8 playoff spots across 8 fantasy football teams. It was the goal. Now, I am already eliminated in the Ante and Co. league, so unfortunately, that does kind of suck. But I made the playoffs, and especially in that league, after starting the season 0-4. I made the playoffs in all my leagues. That's all you can ask for. Chip in a chair, make the playoffs. Anything can happen. I achieved that goal of making the playoffs in all 8 of my leagues. In the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football, a playoff quarterfinal matchup against Tim. I was victorious in that league as the 3rd seed. I now move on to a playoff semifinal matchup against Tony, a guy I went to high school with, a guy I have known for a long time. And we've actually matched up in the first championship final of the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football, and we're running it back in a semifinal in 2024. Ante and Co., like I said, I lost. I lost the playoff quarterfinal to Chris, which does eliminate me. It means I have the 5th pick in the rookie draft coming up next fall. And I got a consolation matchup against Bill, who is very upset that he lost in the first round and is likely going to take that anger out on me. But once again, the main thing, 8 playoff spots, 8 playoff appearances out of 8 leagues, which I'm super proud of. And as always, if you go to the description of this live stream of the VOD, however you interact with the show, you are going to find all my results from last week, all my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 16 here in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em pool for season 13 of this show. Once again, you win a week, you get yourself shouted out on the show. And if you're in that pool, look, I say Tyler's pretty well got it wrapped up, but I mean, you still got to go out there and play every single week. Anything can happen. And you can find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, where we have a community of great long-term NFL prognosticators like myself who are out there doing picks every single week. And look, if you like what I do and you want more of what I do, get yourself on over to the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. All right, we got a couple people right away in the chat. We got Blind Canadian Cat and we got Broken Ankle. Awesome. Cat says, have a commissioner that does that weird thing where the first round of the playoffs are week 15 and 16 and the second round is 17 and 18. Oh, gross. So it's 2 rounds of the playoffs, but it's 2 rounds over 4 weeks and it's like cumulative scores? That's gross. I don't like that at all. I mean, I get that, like, you know, one bad week can kind of tank you, but like, I don't know. I don't like that at all. That's terrible. Broken Ankles has another exciting week. Thanks for putting all the time and effort into these shows. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I really like that's stuff like that's so awesome for me to hear, and I never take it for granted because it's like I'm by no means a big content creator, but I hear stuff like that and it's awesome. I really appreciate that. Brunson Burner has a question: McMillan or Reed? I don't love, like, New Orleans is, we're going to talk about it more. New Orleans has a good defense, and Jaden Reed did kind of come back on the map last week after, the absolute donut that he had 2 weeks ago. I think I want to say McMillan in that one if I had to, especially if it's PPR, because like Reed gets some of his stuff through carries, some of his touches through carries. So like Reed is not a PPR machine. He can give you good weeks, but he's not a PPR machine. So I think between the two of them, I'd go McMillan. Another 19% drink. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with our Week 16 picks, and we're going to start on Thursday Night Football. Now, the scheduling this week is weird, where we've got like 2 games on Saturday, and I didn't really take that into account. So some of the games here are going to be all over the place. And again, with the Packers playing another game in prime time, I have a different game in their spot. So we'll start anyway with the Thursday night game, which is the Denver Broncos on the road in Los Angeles, taking on the Chargers. Now, the Chargers are losers of 2 straight games and have kind of fallen off a little bit, at least with my model. Used to love the Chargers on the defensive side. Over the last 4 games, they're giving up a ton of yardage. The Chargers are bottom 5 in the NFL in yardage allowed, and they're also bottom 5 in yardage gained on the offensive side. And the efficiency has not quite been there for the Chargers, and the volume's not really there either. So they're even in games where they've had kind of favorable fantasy matchups, you haven't exactly seen them sort of break out. I think they're really badly missing J.K. Dobbins, and I don't think people realized just how bad they were going to be missing him when he went down to that injury. Meanwhile, the Broncos just kind of keep cruising along. They're incredibly efficient on the offensive side. They're scoring like 35 points a game over their last 4 games. Defensively, also really efficient. They're giving up a lot of yardage, but it's not turning into very much on the scoreboard. I feel really good about this Broncos team. I think they're peaking at the right time. They're winners of 4 straight games. And when it looked like the Chargers were like a deadlock to get into the postseason, they've still kind of got an inside track. They're one of 8 teams that have playoff clinching scenarios that are available to them this week. But the Denver Broncos find themselves in that exact same boat. Like, both of those teams have 2 different scenarios where they could clinch playoff spots this week. I really like Denver in this spot. They're not the favorite. They're the road team. Division matchup, anything can happen. I like the Broncos here in the upset on the road. Let's take Denver to go into Los Angeles and beat the Chargers. On the line, the Chargers are laying -2.5 here as a pretty marginal home favorite. Both of these teams are 4-1 against the spread to this situation, that being the Chargers as home favorites and the Broncos as road dogs. So again, I think Denver's the better team right now. I'm taking the Broncos. Give me the +2.5 on Denver. Total in the game set at 42 points, and this is kind of a play on the way the numbers in the average scoring has been going in the NFL over the last month, 6 weeks, things like that. I'm going to take an over here because games seem to be averaging about 47, 48 points, and 42 is a pretty good number to that average. So let's lean on the over here, over 42 points in Denver, Los Angeles. I still think this is a super competitive football game because it's a division game. Maybe it comes down right to the end. I'm going to go 23-21. Broncos win. Broncos cover the +2.5 and give me an over on the 42-point total. We got Andrew in the chat now with the Green Bay hoodie. You're very happy with how they played against Seattle. For the most part, I am. I think they played an excellent game. They were, the beneficiary of a quarterback injury on the other side, which we'll talk about when we get to Seattle's game this week with Geno Smith. But I thought they played a very good game. Shout out to Edgerrin Cooper too, man. What a breakout performance for him. It helps not giving up points when teams drop the ball at the 1-yard line. This is true. This is very true. All right, here's a quick handful of games. We are going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road in Baltimore, taking on the Ravens. Battle of the AFC North, of course. Ravens are 4-2 in Baltimore this season and were winners last week. The Steelers enter this game on the tail end of back-to-back road games. They were losers last week, but the Steelers have in fact clinched at least a wild card playoff spot. So the Steelers are one of those teams that are in the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens do in fact have two scenarios under which they could also clinch a wild card spot coming out of this week. So I'm not going to go over every single scenario for you. There's 101 websites that will break down every scenario. And if I did that, we'd be here until 1 a.m. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you there are two scenarios under which the Ravens can clinch a playoff spot. So, take a peek into that and check those out. There are two different scenarios under which that could be the case. So, look, a game where both of these teams are invested. Both of these teams, even though Pittsburgh has clinched a wild card spot, that division is still up for grabs. The Steelers are going to have to try to make their way here probably for a week or two without TJ Watt, who did suffer an ankle foot injury last week. I think it was late in the game last week. I'm going to lean on him not playing this week because, again, we know the Steelers are going to the postseason. Chip in a chair, you make the playoffs, you got a chance. I don't think they want to take any gambles with the core piece on their defense. So I would be surprised if TJ Watt played this week. However, even though, Baltimore's had a lot of success in Baltimore this year, I don't think this game's a blowout. I think this is a tight game either way. So here's the way we're going to play this one. I like the Ravens to win this matchup. If the game was in Pittsburgh, I might take the Steelers. But situation, I like Baltimore. Let's take the Ravens to get the win. However, they're laying -6.5 against the spread. That's a lot of points for this division and this matchup. I just don't see it. So while I like Baltimore to win, give me that +6.5 on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Once again, the Steelers 3-1 as road dogs against the spread this season. So let's do that and let's take that +6.5. Total in the game set at 45.5, kind of a middling 40, but these two teams have combined to hit 18 overs this season. Let's go ahead and take another over here, over 45.5 points in Pittsburgh, Baltimore. I'm going to go Ravens 26, Steelers 23. So Ravens win, Steelers cover the +6.5, and an over on the 45.5 points. Quick one here. The New York Giants on the road in Atlanta taking on a Falcons team who were winners last week on Monday night. Cut it close. That was a one-possession game and a game that probably should not have been a one-possession game, but Atlanta got away with the victory. They are coming into this game, obviously, now on the short week, having played on Monday night. Giants are a team that's lost 9 straight games. They're now going back, I believe, to Drew Lock at quarterback, if I heard this correctly, although their whole quarterback room seems like it's like really, really hurting. The Falcons making a very notable quarterback change. They are benching Kirk Cousins, and it is Michael Penix Jr.'s time as the starting quarterback in Atlanta. Now, whether that's a long-term commitment or it's just for this week is kind of yet to be seen, but it is a Michael Penix game for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the Giants, we know, are a team that is not currently trying to win. Like they're playing for, they're sucking for Shedeur, or like they're playing for a top quarterback candidate here. They're not in the business of trying to win football games. The Atlanta Falcons are, because this division is still up for grabs, and that's probably the only way any of these teams are making the playoffs. So I have to take the Falcons at home to get this win over a team that's, again, not trying to win. Give me the Atlanta Falcons at home to beat the Giants. However, here's another crazy one. A couple of the spreads are really nuts this week. -9. The Falcons are laying 9 points at home to the Giants. And I kind of get it. But again, you have to be a team that deserves to lay that many points. The Falcons are not. The Falcons have done nothing for me in the last month to feel like, oh, yeah, they should be a 9-point favorite over anybody in this league. So I like the Falcons to win, but give me that +9 on the New York Giants. Neither one of these teams are above 500 to the spread situationally. So that's just too many points for me. Give me the +9. Total in the game set at 42 points, which is a very low number. However, these two teams have only combined to hit 10 overs all year long. Give me an under on this. I don't think this is a game that we're going to see a ton of offense. Michael Penix is going to have to find his footing beneath him against NFL defenses. So give me an under on this 42-point total. Give me like a 21-17, something like that. Maybe more competitive than it should have been, kind of like Atlanta's game last week. Falcons win, Giants cover the +9, and give me an under on the 42 points. Another quick one here. The Buffalo Bills, fresh off of a massive win against the Detroit Lions last week, 6-0 in Buffalo this season. They have already clinched the division title in the AFC East. They play a division opponent this week. The New England Patriots are in town. 2-5 on the road are the Patriots, losers of 4 straight games. This is back-to-back road games as well for the Patriots. So again, you're talking about a team that has struggled on the road and now having to play back-to-back road games. Another team that, I think they'd like to win some games if they could, but haven't really done a whole lot over the last month to make you feel like you could feel confident in them winning games, especially on the defensive side. Like that defense is really, really bad right now. So to go up against Buffalo, I understand there's a Detroit Lions curse potentially at play here, but I mean, not in this situation, I don't think. Buffalo should absolutely cruise in this spot. So give me the Bills to get a big win. How big a win? They're laying -14. And Kat, you might want to look away on this one. I'm going to lay those -14 points. It's gross. Double digits this season have not worked out very well. But Buffalo is 4-2 against the spread as home favorites. And again, this Patriots defense cannot be trusted right now. So 14 points, it's a lot, but I don't think it's unreasonable. So I'm going to lay the -14. I know it's Cat in the chat says it's so gross. It is. It's terrible, but I think that's how it's going to play out. Partly because of this. Total in the game is 46.5 points. These two teams have combined to hit 18 overs this season. A lot of points in their games. I'm feeling an over. This feels like a game that's going to get to 50. And if this game's going to get to 50, what's the reasonable share of points for the Patriots? 13, 14? I don't think they get to 20. And if they don't get to 20, then it's a blowout. So I'm going 37-13. Buffalo wins. Buffalo covers the -14. Give me an over on the 46.5 points. And we do have to hold our nose a little bit on that spread. And the last game we're going to look at before we look at the game that is replacing the Packers game in the Packers slot because the Packers are playing on Monday night. That is the Detroit Lions in Chicago taking on the Bears, a kind of battle of the NFC North. Another quickie. The Bears are not a team that is currently, I think the Bears would like to win, like the Patriots, would like to win some games. I don't know how capable they are of winning games right now. We had actually a really interesting chat in our league chat for the professionals about how, the Bears and the Jets are kind of in the same boat where it's like they're talent-rich rosters, but the leadership is like an absolute joke. So if the leadership is not proper and it's not properly in place, you can have all the talent in the world, and the Jets have been this chronically over the years, and I feel like the Bears are in the same spot. If the leadership is crummy, then you can have all the talent in the world and you're not going to get the results. And that's what we're seeing in Chicago. They're losers of 8 straight games. They're on the short week because they just played on Monday night. They're really struggling by my model does not like them at all, especially on the defensive side. Their defensive efficiency is not good. Detroit, I don't think that loss against Buffalo reflects poorly on them at all. They were on like an 11-game win streak, so you have to imagine they have to lose at some point. Even the Chiefs lose at some point. There's also 6-0 on the road. So the Detroit Lions cruise in this one for sure. Should be a double-digit win, couple of possessions. Let's take the Lions on the road to get the win over Chicago. On the line, the Bears are taking +6.5 here as a, pretty strong home dog. They've only been a home dog twice this season, which is interesting. They've only been a home dog twice. Against the spread, they're 1-0-1. So they haven't actually failed to cover a home dog spread this season. I just thought that was kind of interesting. However, the Lions, as road favorites, are 4-1 against the spread. And again, they have not lost a game on the road this year. I think this is a get right spot for the Lions for sure. So let's lay the -6.5 here on Detroit. Total in the game set at 47 points. These two teams have only combined to hit 12 overs this season. I'm going to stick under on this point total, under 47 points in Detroit, Chicago. Let's go like a 27-17. And I think that final score may be aided by a garbage time touchdown. I think this is like a 27-10 game coming right down to the wire, and Chicago just kind of gets one late. So, 27-17 might look more competitive than I think it actually is. 27-17 Lions, who win, cover, and give me the under on the points. All right, let's get in the chat here and get caught up. I had my I Love Breakfast shirt because of that. Thank you so much. Pittsburgh and Baltimore means Mortal Kombat fight, even though you don't have the shirt on tonight. Fair enough. Signing Kirk Cousins was an accident waiting to happen. Look, I wasn't totally out of favor for it, except like it did feel weird with the drafting of Penix and the signing of Cousins. Like doing both of those things seemed a little weird. +6.5 is beyond easy money. This is from Kat. If for nothing else, the stigma and haunting that the Ravens have when playing the Steelers. Take the points. There you go. Maybe Atlanta should send Cousins back to Minnesota. Dude, you joke about that. I don't think that's an unreasonable possibility. Weirder things have happened in NFL off seasons than that. My Patriots might as well tank for Hunter. I mean, maybe at this point, they're definitely in that conversation for teams that, are in, the running for a high draft pick. So it's possible. Kat says I'd go lower than that. I think this is in the total for the Atlanta game. Give me Falcons like 13-6. I think they put Koo on IR as well, so keep an eye out for that. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Andrew says Bears Patriots Toilet Bowl, Lions Bills Super Bowl. I like that. And Kat says 4-2 and a fluke away from being 5-2. What the hell happened to this Bears team? I think they were front runners. I'll say that. They had talent. And they had a fairly decent start to the season. And when that went away, they didn't have the internal fortitude to kind of dig themselves out of that hole. And they didn't have the leadership. They didn't have a Dan Campbell. There's not a Dan Campbell in that coaching staff. There's not a guy that can grab them by the scruff of the collar and kind of drag them kicking and screaming back into doing the right things and clawing that momentum back. Just can't do it. I'm going to do one of those and one of these. All right, in my spotlight spot, I'm going to put the Houston Texans on the road in Kansas City, taking on a Chiefs team that could be featuring a fairly limited Patrick Mahomes. I think the fear has kind of been alleviated that he might not play. Like he's obviously dealing with an injury. Like there's no question about that. He injured his ankle, very similar to the 2023 Super Bowl, I believe it was. It's a high ankle injury. He's going to be limited. I'm leaning in on him just because I can't see him sitting entirely. He had those comments a couple days ago coming out of practice, like, oh, well, I'm going to put the team in the best position. And I think that kind of frothed everybody up, but I don't think the risk of him not playing is realistic. This is a battle of two teams who have already clinched their division. So both of these teams going to the playoffs. Houston, I don't think can put themselves or shouldn't be deluding themselves into thinking that, like, oh man, we might have a realistic shot here at a better playoff spot. Like, they're going to be the 3 seed. I think that's like they won that division. They're not going to catch Buffalo. They're not going to catch Kansas City. They're probably going to be the 3 seed. Well, maybe not even the 3 seed, maybe the 4 seed. So I mean, like, maybe you could aspire to the 3 seed, but it's one of those things where, like, these are not gotta win games for Houston. And I think Houston's going to start looking at where can we potentially rest guys here over the next few weeks to put us in the best position on Super Wildcard weekend. That's kind of the long and short of what I'm getting at here. In saying that, the Texans have won 2 straight games. The efficiency on the offensive side has been really good over the last month. Part of that is because they're not generating a lot of yardage. Defensively, this Houston team is nothing to sneeze at. The efficiency is good. They're not giving up a lot of points. This is not an easy out for anybody. But you got to lean on the fact that the Chiefs are unbeaten at home. And even, 80% of Patrick Mahomes, even this year's version of Patrick Mahomes, is probably better than what most teams are putting out there, quarterback. So I think we got to go with the Chiefs in this one. I couldn't realistically find a path to the upset here. So give me Kansas City at home to get the win over Houston. On the line, the Chiefs are laying -3. Interestingly enough, Kansas City only 2-5 against the spread as home favorites this year, which they've been in every single one of their games. So you think about it, they've won all 7 games. They've only covered 2 spreads. Part of that is larger spreads, especially early in the season. The other part of that is voodoo, wizardry, and BS. I have to follow my own methodology. In this, -3 is the upper echelon of my small price to pay for a favorite. So I got to lay the -3 because I like Kansas City to win. Total in the game, 42 points. These two teams have only combined to hit 10 overs all season long. Give me the under on the 42-point total, even though it is super, super low and very beatable. Give me like a 21-16, something like that. Give me a defensive matchup here for two defenses who, from an efficiency perspective and a scoring perspective, have been very stingy over the last month. So 21-16 final. KC wins. KC covers the -3. Under on the 42 points. One thing that I did forget to mention in the Detroit-Chicago game is the fact that, like, the injuries are really starting to pile up for Detroit. David Montgomery is now done for the year. He's got an MCL tear, I believe. And Dorsey, one of their defensive backs, he's got a fracture in his leg. I think it was the same injury that Aiden Hutchinson had. So he's done for the year as well. So the injuries are starting to pile up for the Lions, which is bad news at this time of the season. I forgot to mention that. I meant to mention that. I don't think it impacts the outcome of this week's game, but down the line, something to keep an eye on. All right. Here come 4 fairly quick ones. Oh, I might spend a little extra time on the 4th one. The Cleveland Browns at Cincinnati taking on the Bengals, a battle of the AFC North. The Browns are losers of 3 straight games, only 1-6 on the road. Very firmly a team that is no longer trying to win, to the point that they are also making a quarterback change. Jameis Winston, the most fun man in the NFL, he goes to the bench for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, listen, I like DTR. DTR is my guy. Like, I'm a big fan of his. You don't bench Jameis. I don't think so. Like, I feel like for the vibes, you don't bench Jameis. But I don't get to make those decisions. If you're a team that's not trying to win, like, does Jameis give you that huge of an edge that you might potentially go out and beat Cincinnati in Cincinnati? I don't think so. So unless something happened, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The Bengals only 1-5 in Cincinnati this season, but are winners of 2 straight games. And they're going to be facing a Browns team that has suffered another injury at running back, and it's Nick Chubb yet again. He's got a fracture in his foot. He is done for the year. Should be ready to go by the beginning of next season. What that season looks like for him, who knows? Because now it's back-to-back years with pretty significant injuries to the lower body, which is bad news for running backs, obviously. So Nick Chubb is out. Jerome Ford is in. I hope you all got your waiver claims in on Jerome Ford, because he's going to be the lead back for the rest of the year, I have to imagine. And Cincinnati is in this spot where they need so much help, but they're not dead yet in the playoff race. You know what I mean? Like, there's still a possibility that Cincinnati could sneak in as that 7 seed in the AFC. They need so much help, but by this point, they're not going to be dead yet, I don't think. So this is like one of those games where, like, we have to win this. There's no not winning this game. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, they're winners of 2 straight, so they're playing some better football lately, not necessarily on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, they are churning right along. Joe Burrow is trying to will this thing into existence. So yeah, give me the Bengals. Give me a motivated Bengals team to get the win. Now, they're laying 7.5 points, -7.5, which was kind of gross the first time I saw it. Not going to lie. Feels kind of gross. I think I still have to lay those points. It's not double digits. I know it's a division game, but these are very firmly teams that are on 2 different levels. So the 7.5 points, as gross as it kind of is, I kind of got to lay it. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that -7.5 and kind of do that. Total in the game set at 47 points. I'm going to take an over here. Cincinnati has 10 overs this season, and that is, I think, second in the entire NFL. Only to, is it maybe Baltimore? Somebody's got 11, but Cincinnati's got 10. And you've also seen quite a bit of line movement on this number. I think it opened at like 49.5, and it's already down to 47. So I'm going to buy that dip and take the over here. Over 47 points in Bengals Browns, 33-16 the final. I think they double them up. So Cincinnati wins, Cincinnati covers, and give me the over on the 47-point total. The Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts are going to renew hostilities in Indianapolis this week. The Titans are losers of 3 straight games. Apparently, I just had a stroke. The Titans are losers of 3 straight games, only 2-5 on the road, so not a lot of success found in general this season, but especially away from Tennessee. Indianapolis were losers last week as well. Very firmly two teams that are like hard fades by my model. So it's like somebody's got to win. You got to take somebody. The Titans of note appear to be benching Will Levis. It looks like they're making a quarterback change. It looks like it's going to be Mason Rudolph at quarterback for the Titans. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. I mean, Rudolph's got a bit more experience, I suppose. But it's another one of these spots where I think the Titans aren't necessarily trying to win, but they're also not necessarily trying to lose, because they're still trying to figure out whether Will Levis is their guy or not. So maybe this is just like trying to light a fire under him. I'm not sure. It's interesting. It's interesting for sure. So look, 2 teams that are not going to the postseason. Do we just take an upset here because the heck with it? Because again, it's 2 bad football teams. Like, neither one of these teams are good. Let's do it. Why not? Let's have some fun. It's getting close to Christmas. I'm going to have some fun, damn it. Give me the Tennessee Titans on the road to win this game outright, over the Indianapolis Colts. Because again, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. So give me Mason Rudolph, and whatever portion of his brain is still active, give me Mason Rudolph to get the win over the Colts. On the line, Indianapolis is laying -3.5. This would be a hedge for me either way, because the heck with buying that extra half point in a matchup like this. So I'll take the +3.5 on Tennessee. Thank you very much. Total in the game set at 42.5 points. Now, what I will say is Tennessee, for all you can say about them, in their 7 games on the road this season, 6 of them have gone over. So there's been some points in these games. Let's go ahead and take an over on that 42.5 point total. Might seem a little gross, but I'm just kind of following the trend on that one. So let's go like 24-21, something like that. Titans might walk it off maybe. Give me Tennessee on the road to get the win. Give me Tennessee plus the 3.5 and an over on the points. The Los Angeles Rams, on the tail end of back-to-back road games, travel to New York to take on Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Now, the Jets were winners last week, but are only 2-4, I believe, in New York this season. Excuse me. The Los Angeles Rams, like I said, tail end of back-to-back road games, but the Rams are winners of 3 straight games and come into this game on the long week. So they do have the extra time to prepare for this one, 10 full days. And I honestly kind of like them in this spot. It's not like they've been super impressing me over the last, month or so. The offense has been kind of middle of the road. The defense, for the most part, has been kind of middle of the road. When you look at the Jets, I think offensively they kind of turned it around, but they give most of that back on the defense. So if I had to, if it looks like it's going to get into like a shootout, like a higher scoring type of game, I think I would lean on the Rams in this one. So I think that's exactly what I'll do. I think I'll take Los Angeles on the road in New York to get the win over the Jets. And I mean, the Rams are still in the playoff conversation here. The Jets are firmly not, but the Rams in the NFC, I think, are still in that conversation, at least within their own division. So give me the Rams on the road in New York to beat the Jets. On the line, the Jets are taking +3 here as a home dog. And the Rams, for everything you can say about them this season, as road favorites, they're 3-0 against the spread. So they've been winning and covering when they've been favorites on the road. So let's take the -3 here on Los Angeles. And that's, I guess, what kind of influences me a little bit more. Total in the game set of 46.5. This is an efficiency metric over for me. So I'm going to lean over on this one and take like a 27-23 for the final. So the Rams win. They barely cover that -3. It does go over the point total, but we're going to kind of lean on that trend and what the efficiency numbers are telling me to take the over and have the Rams cover the points. And the last game we're going to look at before we talk about Sunday Night Football, Tampa Bay in Dallas, is Philadelphia in Washington. Eagles on the road to their division rivals, the Commanders, battle of the NFC East. Now, this is one of those matchups where both of these teams situationally have had a lot of success this year. Washington's 5-2 at home. Philly is 6-1 away from home and winners of 10 consecutive games. Now, Washington is winners of back-to-back games, so there's obviously no slouches on them either. I think they're better rested than Philly because they just had their bye in, what was it? I want to say week 14. They were one of the teams on week 14 bye. And the Eagles are kind of the walking wounded coming into this game. Both A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley are dealing with injuries. I don't think we see A.J. Brown, this week. Kind of a foot ankle injury for AJB. Most wide receivers would miss 2 to 3 weeks with that injury. I don't think AJ Brown plays this week. Saquon has a contusion on his quad. I think he'll be limited in the game, but I do expect that he will play. And obviously when he plays, good things tend to happen. But you look at this receiving core without AJ Brown, you look at a limited Saquon Barkley, and you look at a Washington team that offensively is doing some really good things over the last month or so. A lot of yards, a lot of points. Defensively, their total defense has been pretty darn good. I think the upset is very alive in this game, and I'm going to go ahead and take it. Part of this is influenced by the fact that Philly's on a double-digit win streak. And once teams get to that like 10 win plateau, you just kind of start looking for the loss because every team loses. So, look, to win 10 straight games is a phenomenal feat. And in a division matchup like this against like the other good team in their division, I think this could very well be the spot where it happens. So, give me the Commanders at home to beat the Philadelphia Eagles and upset in Washington. Commanders upset the Eagles. On the line, the Commanders are taking +3.5. So I like that +3.5 there on Washington. It is worth pointing out that the Eagles, as road favorites, are 3-1 against the spread this season. So we are going against that in terms of a trend. But give me that +3.5 on Washington because I like them to win the game outright. Total in the game set at 45.5 points and kind of the same as the last one. This is an efficiency metric over for me because both Philly and Washington are two very good offenses. Defensively, I think both of these defenses can do some things, but I'm going to lean on the offensive side here, go like an identical 27-23 final that I gave you in the last game. Commanders win, Commanders cover the +3.5 and an over on the 45.5 point total. All right, let's get caught up in the chat here before we talk about Sunday Night Football. Houston and Kansas City could be a trap game because of Mahomes. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Cat, if it were -3.5, I'd probably take the points with Houston. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Corey's in the chat as well. Go Texans. This is their chance to make everyone pay attention to them a little bit against the close game Chiefs. Next week and last week of the season will be when they rest up. This week we try. Fair enough. Look, hey man, the more exciting that game is, the better for the sport. Like I'm down for it. The thing for Lions, they haven't missed a beat despite the injuries. Yeah, not yet. No, you're right. You're absolutely right about that, Andrew. Like the injuries have piled up and they have not missed a beat, but that can only go on for so long. Again, I don't think it impacts this week, but moving forward, be interesting to see. Cleveland have a quarterback problem, 100%. If Cleveland doesn't draft a quarterback in this draft, I'm going to drive up and take Andrew Berry's job myself. Kat, I will pay your trans. I will pay your transit to have you go up and do that exact same thing. I would, as long as I can have the rights to live stream it, I'm down for it. Let's see. Kat says I'd take the points with Cleveland if Winston were starting. Agreed. Well, if Winston was starting, it wouldn't be that much. But if he was, I'd probably take the points there as well. Martin, Cincinnati's my lock of the week. I see them easily covering that spread. Martin, nice to see you, my friend. Andrew, what's your plan for next week's show since it's Christmas? That's true. So next Wednesday is the 25th. So I'm not sure. To be honest, I might do the show on Christmas Eve. That might be a possibility, although I don't know how many people will be around to watch. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Titans and Colts will be a 6-0 game. It's so bad that it won't go over. Like watching baseball or golf. I'd say for Tennessee, they should draft a quarterback like round 2 to put pressure on Levis. Give him one more year, and if he doesn't show anything, turn to that rookie. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Can Aaron Rodgers replace Logan Paul in WWE? I don't want either of them. Rams could take the NFC West. I think they could. I think that division is still so like crazily wide open. It'll be right down to the last week of the season. Can Washington and Philadelphia replace Dallas and Tampa Bay on Sunday night? That I am down for. 100%. Can we just go ahead and I know somebody in here has Raj's phone number. So somebody call Raj and get that flexed up. Carmine is going to dox you for that take. If the little guy can find me, then feel free. You're going to have to do it Tuesday since the NFL has games on that Wednesday. Yeah, I guess so. It basically will have to be Tuesday. Oh boy, that'll be fun. Jeez. All right. I'll call Roger Goodell. I have some words for him anyway. There you go. Andrew Warren, Roger Goodell, UFC 315. All right. Come on, who wouldn't pay to see that fight? The Tampa Bay Bucks on the road in Dallas taking on the Cowboys. That is our Sunday night football game. The Bucks on the tail end of back-to-back road games, but 5-2 on the road this season and winners of 4 straight. The Bucks are peaking at the right time and in a very winnable division. So look, it's exactly the right time for the Bucks to kind of be hitting their apex. Dallas coming off of a win last week. We'll give it up to them. They're coming off of a win, and I think they've finally kind of figured it out to some degree. Like, I still don't think this is a good football team, but I think they've finally kind of leveled themselves out. Like, defensively, their efficiency has been pretty good over the last month, and offensively, they're scoring points. They've been in some shootouts. The efficiency is pretty good. So by my metric, they've kind of figured things out a little bit. I still think they're kind of running into a buzzsaw here. And most of Dallas's success, meager success they've had this season, most of it has been found away from Dallas. So the fact that this game is in Dallas doesn't exactly do them a ton of favors, I don't think, especially against a good road team. I really like Tampa Bay in this spot. Their offense feels really good right now. Their defense is feeling undeniable. Like, I think they've only given up like 60 points in the last month or something like that. So I feel really good about the Bucks in this spot. Let's take Tampa Bay on the road in Dallas to beat the Cowboys. On the line, the Cowboys are taking +3.5 here as a home dog. Worth noting that the Cowboys have been a home dog 5 times this season. They have not covered one of those numbers. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay to cover the -3.5 points. Total in the game set at 48.5. These two teams have combined to hit 18 overs this season. Give me an over on the 48.5 point total. Give me a 31-21 final here for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Bucks win, Bucks cover, over on the points. Always seems to be this point in the show where I start getting like nasally and congested. Mm. Sorry about that, folks. All right, we got 4 games before we get to my boys on Monday night. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals in Carolina taking on the Panthers. And as Kat already knows, I've kind of been working this game in my brain since this morning. So the Arizona Cardinals, winners last week, only 2-4 on the road this season. So not a lot of success to be found for them away from Arizona. Carolina only 1-6 in their own building. So definitely virtually no success to be found in Carolina. The Panthers are losers of 4 straight games and kind of feel like that goodwill that I was talking about for the last couple of weeks feels like it was 100 years ago. Like, it just feels like it's totally gone away, which is awful. And yet I still sit here and say that there's one thing that I think is really influencing me as I talk about this game. The Arizona Cardinals have only been road favorites one time this year. Like, Carolina's used to being a dog at home. They have plenty of experience in being that this season. I think it's 6 times, in like 7 games, and all of like I think they're only covered like 3 of them or something like that. I think that's the numbers. Anyway, plenty of experience this season being a dog at home. That's the overarching point. Arizona has rarely been in this spot this season. This will only be their second time being a favorite on the road. And in that first matchup, I think they lost the game outright. They certainly didn't cover the number. And I think they lost that game outright as a favorite on the road. Maybe that doesn't feel like a lot, but it does feel like you are kind of hedging on experience in a spot versus not much experience in a spot within the context of the season. So I'm actually going to take the Carolina Panthers here, even though they've lost 4 straight games. Again, this is not a team that has looked very good over that 4-game losing streak. Leading into it, look, I'm standing by some of the things that I said about the Panthers. Like, the numbers bore out that they were a better team than the results that they were getting. However, the last couple of games have kind of skewed that back in the direction of earlier in the season. Like, I can't run away from it. It's reality. It's what's happening, especially on the defensive side. The defense has really been a letdown over the last month. But I do think Carolina can find the upset here. So give me the Panthers at home to beat Arizona. On the line, Carolina taking +3.5 as a home dog. Give me the +3.5. Total in the game set at 46.5 points. The Panthers at home this season, 6 overs in 7 games. So let's go ahead and take over on the 46.5 points. I can see this game getting into a 50. Give me a weird final score, like a 26-24, something like that. Carolina wins. They cover the +3.5 and give me an over on the point total. The Minnesota Vikings, winners of 7 straight games, 5-1 on the road, but coming in on the short week, travel to Seattle to take on a Seahawks team that was a loser last week against Green Bay. And good, maybe coming into this game potentially without their starting quarterback. Geno Smith is nursing a knee injury, and everything about this is everybody saying that the knee looks okay structurally, so he may very well play. But Seattle is still in this conversation for the division and a potential playoff spot and things like that. So I realize the games are important, but in the long-term scheme of things, do you throw Geno Smith out there when you know he's not 100% healthy? Like, what does that say about kind of what you're hedging on for the rest of the year? I'm actually going to lean out on Geno this week. I don't think Geno Smith plays this game. I think this is one of those games where Seattle should be able to see the writing on the wall that whether Geno plays or doesn't, they're probably not going to beat the Minnesota Vikings, who are playing the way that they're playing right now. So why not conserve Geno? I don't think that's unfair to say. I don't think that's an unfair perspective to take. I don't think Geno plays this week, and I think the Minnesota Vikings come away with the win, despite the fact, again, that they've already clinched a playoff spot and they're coming in on the short week. This division is not out of reach for Minnesota, and I think they're going to do what they need to do against an opponent that they know and we know is not as good as they are. So give me the Vikings on the road in Seattle to beat the Seahawks. On the line, Seattle is taking +3 as a home dog, but at home this year as a dog, Seattle has only covered 1 number in 5 attempts. They're 1-4, and the -3 should be. I feel very confident about that. So give me the -3 on the Vikings. Total in the game set at 43.5 points. I think this is a low-scoring game where these two teams have only combined to hit 12 overs this season. So give me an under on the 43.5 point total. Give me like a 23-16, something like that. Vikings win. Vikings cover the -3 and under on the 43.5 points. Jacksonville at Las Vegas. Jacksonville wins. Jacksonville covers the +1. Give me an over on the 40 points, 23-21 final. So, like, what else do we talk about? Like, what else do we talk about with this game? We don't know who the quarterback is for Vegas. They're hoping it's Aiden O'Connell, but they have no idea. Jags were losers last week. Raiders have lost 10 straight games, and clearly at this point aren't trying to win. I don't think either one of these teams are trying to win. Raiders are on the short week. Mac Jones legacy. There you go. Make it entertaining. Mac Jones legacy game. 416 yards and 6 touchdowns. No, yeah, sure. Give me a great game from Mac Jones. There you go. That'll be the thing to watch that game for. But yeah, that's legitimately my pick. Like, neither one of these teams deserve to be a favorite, but give me the fact that the Jags have covered 4 road underdog spreads this year, and give me the Jags outright. Give me the +1. I'll take like a provisional over on the number because the Raiders have hit 4 of 6 overs at home this year. So over, I guess. And like it's a 40. So it's like, I think they can sneeze and beat a 40. So give me the over. 23-21 final. Next game. The last game, in fact, that we're going to talk about before we get to Monday Night Football, which is the Saints in Green Bay, and that is the San Francisco 49ers in Miami taking on the Dolphins. So both of these teams come into this game losers from last week. The Niners come in on the long week, obviously having played on Thursday night against the Rams. Only 2-4 on the road this year are the 49ers. There is an injury to talk about in this game, and it is Jalen Waddle, wide receiver for the Dolphins, injured his knee. I think he's a true game time decision here, but once again, I'm kind of taking like the Geno Smith perspective on this, where Miami is at least in the conversation in a potential wild card. So do you risk it for the biscuit in a game like this with a guy like Waddle who's clearly not 100%, feels like he's never 100%? Speaking as someone who is a dynasty manager of his, he feels like he's never 100%. But do you risk further aggravating a knee injury for this one game? I don't feel like they do. I think they take kind of a larger picture look at it, and I think Jalen Waddle sits this week. I think I got to lean on the 49ers because, again, I think the 49ers are in more like, I think the 49ers have a better chance at the postseason than the Dolphins do, simply because like the NFC feels like it's a little more wide open. It might not take as good a record to get there, even though I talked about the Bengals earlier and still potentially having a chance and all this fun stuff. But because I mean the division's not out of reach for the Niners. They would just need a ton of help, I think. I think I'm going to take the Niners in this spot. It's not a great spot here either way, I don't think. And the Niners are, starting to get hit with injuries. Stop me if you've heard this before. But I think I'll take San Francisco on the road. They're a very, very, very marginal dog. So give me another upset here. Niners in Miami beat the Dolphins. Dolphins are laying -1.5. Like I said, very marginal favorite. I like the Niners to win, so give me the +1.5. Total in the game set at 44.5 points. This is kind of going against the fact that the Dolphins are 5-2 to the over at home this year. To me, this is an efficiency under because I just neither one of these offenses are super impressive to me right now. I think I'm taking the under in this one. Under 44.5 points in San Francisco, Miami. Give me a 23-20, which is obviously very close to that total play. Niners win, Niners cover, and under the 44.5 point total. Okay, let's get caught up in chat here before we talk about Monday Night Football, and then that's going to close us out for the week. Let's see. Andrew versus Roger Goodell will be better than Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. I agree. That ass whooping they gave the Chargers surprised me. That comes from Kat. Andrew, I still think they need to let go of Mike McCarthy. I agree. And if that's the case, I hope Jerry Jones calls me to put me in as head coach. Oh my goodness. We're all just going to have NFL jobs by the end of this season. I'd love that. Things haven't gone well for Carolina since Cam Newton left. Doesn't seem that. I think Bryce Young is going to be a good quarterback in this league. He's got to find it still, but I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league eventually. And that whole team needs an overhaul. 10-9 Arizona, says Andrew. The NFC West has been up for grabs since San Francisco's injuries got the best of them. Absolutely. Gio would be happy with a Minnesota win if he's watching in Columbia. Oh, that's right. Gio is in Columbia. That's right. Another comment about Jacksonville and AEW wrestlers. Mac Jones legacy game. Love it. Giants Raiders in a pick'em at best. The key is the Devondre Campbell suspension. Let's talk about Devondre Campbell for a second. Everybody's dunking on Devondre Campbell. And I mean, I get it. I definitely get it. You just can't do it. Right? Like, if something happened, tell your coach something happened. If you knew you weren't starting and you're mad that you're not starting, tell him before the game. You know before the game that you're not starting. So tell him. Just be like, you know what? My calf. My ankle. I tested it out pregame. I just don't feel it. Or whatever. Like, there are so many better ways. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I can't relate to the situation because I haven't ever really been in it, but crazy to see it happen. And at the same time, I'm sure there is something more there. I think the gentleman has a right to his privacy in that regard. If he wants to talk about it, great. It's just, it's tough. It's a very tough situation. I always try to kind of take as level-headed an approach with that kind of stuff as possible. But boy, oh boy, it would have infuriated me in the moment. It absolutely would have. Again, I didn't hashtag play the game, but it would have infuriated me in the moment for sure. The last thing the NFL needs is the prognosticators taking over official positions. No, that's exactly what the NFL needs. The NFL needs to be run by YouTube kids. I'll say it. I'm putting it right out there. All right. Monday Night Football. The New Orleans Saints in Green Bay taking on the Packers. Packers are 5-2 at Lambeau Field this season, coming into this game off of a win. The Saints 2-4 away from New Orleans and coming in off of a loss. So two teams that feel like they're going in exact opposite directions heading into this game. Green Bay would be competitive for basically every other division title in football and may have clinched one or two by now. Unfortunately, they have to play in the NFC North, and their record of what are they, 10-4 is like third. Like third in their own division. It's crazy. It's crazy how good that division, especially the three teams at the top, obviously, have been this year. The Saints are coming into this game potentially and likely even without the services of Alvin Kamara. So Kamara has a groin injury and it's an adductor or adductor. I can't remember how you pronounce that, but it's a groin injury and it does tend to cost guys 1 to 2 weeks. So I'd be very surprised if he plays this week. Might see him again next week, especially if the Saints are still like alive for the division. But not this week. And that sucks for my dynasty team because he's been one of my key pieces this season. So we'll see how that's going to play out. But I would be exceptionally surprised if Alvin Kamara does play. I think this is actually shaping up to be a defensive battle. These two defenses over the last month have been exceptionally good. The Packers have been good for the majority of the season. Over the last month's worth of games, defensive efficiency top 10, total defense top 5, scoring defense top 10. The Saints, top 10 defensive efficiency, top 10 scoring defense. These two defenses have been getting the job done. Now, the Packers offense has also been on fire lately. They're top 5 in offensive efficiency, top 5 in scoring offense. So the real question as to whether this winds up being a high scoring affair is what happens when the Packers have the ball, right? Does the Saints defense hold up to what the Packers have been doing on the offensive side over the last month? And it's tough to say whether it will or not. What I can say is the Packers have only hit like 2 of 7 overs at Lambeau this year. And at Lambeau, late December, it's going to be cold. It feels like a high-scoring game to me. And since it doesn't feel, they're just not. Like I felt really confident about Buffalo in that spot, but Buffalo is against a bad team. The Saints are not a bad team. They're injury riddled, but they're not a bad team. But 14 points against the Saints and that defense and how good the defense has been, that I'm not going to take. But I will certainly take the Packers to win the game. They are the better of the two teams. They're at home. Give me the Packers to get the win over the Saints. So Packers win. Saints cover the plus 14, regardless of who's starting at quarterback for them. It could be Rattler. It could be, is it Henner? I forget the last name of the other quarterback there now. And, Kamara or no Kamara, 14 points. It's just too much for me. Total in the game set at 42.5. I am going to take an under in this game for sure. Give me like a 23-14, something like that. So yeah, 23-14. Packers win. Saints cover the plus 14 and give me an under on the 42.5 point total. Oh, Cat's stream seems to be lagging. You might want to refresh there, Cat, although we are right at the end. That is it. That is the picks. Those are the picks, I should say. And that is the show for week 16 in the NFL 2024. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop in, watch the show. I hope Christmas is a happy time for you. I really do. I mean, we'll see each other just in case we don't. This is supposed to be for everybody, whether you in it or not. It's supposed to be a magical time, and I hope it's a magical time for everybody. So thank you so much. We will see you again next week. The scheduling is obviously going to have to be a thing. We'll figure that out on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Blockbuster_guy. We'll get it figured out. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. All right, there you go. Those are the picks. That is the show for week 16. And we'll get caught up here with just the last few comments in the stream before we send you away. Let's see. The Giants Raiders in a pick'em. Giants -0.5 a point. It's bad, but I think Neighbors. A matchup between the Giants and the Raiders. Giants -0.5 a point. It's bad, but I think Neighbors and Tracy make for a more entertaining game over Bowers and whatever else they got. Plus, Locke and DeVito are cooler than Ritter and AOC. Andrew, drinking milk or eggnog? This is milk mixed with a coffee drink, which is 19% drink. The last thing the NFL needs prognosticators taking over official positions. Again, I disagree. Kat says Packers 26, Saints 9. Andrew says Saints sign Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Alvin Kamara. Is he on like the Chiefs practice squad or is he outright? Would be interesting. Andrew says, I'll let you know. I like the picks this week except Carolina and Arizona, but I'm letting you know now I have a job interview that I'll let you know if it affects my videos in your live stream. Good luck on your job interview, my friend. We always enjoy folks in the community here getting opportunities and advancing themselves. So good. That's awesome. I hope that job interview goes very well for you. All right, folks. That's going to do it. We're at an hour 15. I'm going to get you out of here. Enjoy the games in week 16. We will see you again for week 17. Once again, the scheduling will be a thing and we will figure that out on Twitter. But for now, enjoy the games and we will see you again for week number 17. See you, folks.